Hello, online pipe community. It's Ethan, Parsimonious Piper, once more together with,
Potter Piper.
and we are going to be covering the very last of the Screwtape letters today. My turn to read. Let me set my pipe down, get right to it. My dear, my very dear Wormwood, my puppet, my pigsney, how mistakenly, now that all is lost, you come whimpering to ask me whether the terms of affection in which I address you meant nothing from the beginning. Far from it. Rest assured, my love for you and your love for me are as like as two peas. I have always desired you as you, pitiful fool, desired me. The difference is that I am the stronger. I think they will give you to me now, or a bit of you. Love you? Why, yes, as dainty a morsel as I ever grew fat on. You have let a soul slip through your fingers. The howl of sharpened famine for that loss re echoes at this moment through all the levels of the kingdom of noise down to the very throne itself. It makes me mad to think of it. How well I know what happened at the instance when they snatched him from you. There was a sudden clearing of his eyes, was there not? As he saw you for the first time and recognized the part you had had in him and knew that you had it no longer. Just think, and let it be the beginning of your agony, what he felt at that moment, as if a scab had fallen from an old sore, as if he were emerging from a hideous shell like tetter, as if he shuffled off for good and all a defiled, wet, clinging garment. By hell, it is misery enough to see them in their mortal days taking off dirtied and uncomfortable clothes and splashing in hot water and giving little grunts of pleasure, stretching their eased limbs. What then of this final stripping, this complete cleansing? The more one thinks about it, the worse it becomes. He got through so easily. No gradual misgivings, no doctor's sentence, no nursing home, no operating theater, no false hopes of life. Sheer instantaneous liberation. One moment it seemed to be all our world, the scream of bombs, the fall of houses, the stink and taste of high explosive on the lips and in the lungs, the feet burning with weariness, the heart cold with horrors, the brain reeling, the legs aching. Next moment, all this was gone, gone like a bad dream, never again to be of any account. Defeated, outmaneuvered fool. Did you mark how naturally, as if he'd been born for it, the earth-born vermin entered the new life? How all his doubts became, in the twinkling of an eye, ridiculous? I know what the creature was saying to itself. Yes, of course. It always was like this. All horrors have followed the same course, getting worse and worse and forcing you into a kind of bottleneck till the very moment when you thought you must be crushed, behold, you were out of the narrows and all was suddenly well. The extraction hurt more and more, and then the tooth was out. The dream became a nightmare, and then you woke. You die, and then you are beyond death. How could I have ever doubted it? As he saw you, he also saw them. I know how it was. You reeled back, dizzy and blinded, more hurt by them than he had ever been by bombs. The degradation of it. That this thing of earth and slime could stand upright and converse with spirits before whom you, a spirit, could only cower. Perhaps you had hoped that the awe and strangeness of it would dash his joy. But that is the cursed thing. The gods are strange to mortal eyes, and yet they are not strange. He had no faintest conception till that very hour of how they would look, and even doubted their existence. But when he saw them, he knew that he had always known them, and realized what part each one of them had played at many an hour in his life, when he had supposed himself alone, so that now he could say to them one by one, not, "Who are you?" but, "So it was you all the time." All that they were and said at this meeting woke memories, the dim consciousness of friends about him, which had haunted his solitudes from infancy, was now at last explained. That central music in every pure experience, which had always just evaded memory, was now at last recovered. Recognition made him free of their company almost before the limbs of his corpse became quiet. Only you were left outside. He saw not only them, he saw him. This animal, this thing begotten in a bed, could look on him. What is blinding, suffocating fire to you is now cool light to him, is clarity itself, and wears the form of a man. You would like, if you could, to interpret the patient's prostration in the presence, his self abhorrence and utter knowledge of his sins. Yes, Wormwood, a clearer knowledge even than yours. On the analogy of your own choking and paralyzing sensations when you encountered the deadly air that breathes from the heart of heaven. But it's all nonsense. Pains he may still have to encounter, but they embrace those pains. They would not barter them for any earthly pleasure. All the delights of sense or heart or intellect with which you could once have tempted him, even the delights of virtue itself, now seem to him in comparison but as the half nauseous attractions of a rattled harlot would seem to a man who hears that his true beloved, whom he has loved all his life, and whom he had believed to be dead, is alive and even now at his door. He is caught up into that world where pain and pleasure take on transfinite values, and where all our arithmetic is dismayed. Once more, the inexplicable meets us. Next to the curse of useless tempters like yourself, the greatest curse upon us is the failure of our intelligence department. If we could only find out what he is really up to. Alas, alas, that knowledge in itself, so hateful and mawkish a thing, should yet be necessary for power. Sometimes I am almost in despair. All that sustains me is the conviction that our realism, our rejection in the face of all temptations, of all this silly nonsense and claptrap, must win in the end. Meanwhile, I have you to settle with. Most truly do I sign myself your increasingly and ravenously affectionate uncle, Screwtape.
Thank you, Ethan. The last letter, C.S. Lewis has Screwtape recapping for Wormwood how he has lost. He's lost his patient. And I mean, Lewis, in his own way, does it almost, it seems as if in such an endearing way, but with that slight sense that Wormwood is going to pay for it. But thinking even over all the letters and how Screwtape recaps how he lost his patient, and even just to kind of think about the patient who was a non-believer became a believer, then the struggles he's had, then the girlfriend that he became a girlfriend with, the family, and how Screwtape, what was the most important for him to tell Wormwood throughout all the letters in this life of this patient is keep him distracted. Keep him distracted from God, but keep him distracted from what's going on in his own life and his daily life. And that, that's what's just kept me really focused on that importance of distraction, and how often what I may think is the worst thing of a doubt or a struggle, and it's like that's not the worst thing. If anything, that can bring someone to a deeper faith. And I know in my own ministry how so often people become discouraged because they might experience discouragement, they might experience doubt, and yet it's that perseverance and that willingness to struggle, it's the perseverance that's important. And that Screwtape was always trying to tell Wormwood never to it's the distraction that you want to keep him from. And now he has lost because he has suddenly died. He hasn't had to endure so many other things, or even a long life that could wear his spirit down. I mean, if that would be the right word. And but it's that, for me, for whatever the viewers that are watching, and that it's just it's that it's that constant distraction that the evil one's trying to do, and yet what C.S. Lewis was always saying within it is deal with the day, deal with what's happening at the moment. And that's just, and there's a few other things, but I mean, I'll just start it off by saying it's the distraction that Screwtape has wanted.
Well, and as we discussed a little bit off camera, distraction really is the central theme of the book. In each chapter, Screwtape is advising Wormwood on a new tactic to take, whether it's getting him focused on the fact that the church he's attending isn't perfect, and somebody near him is singing off key and blah blah blah, that maybe I would be better off going somewhere else, to sexual chastity, to focusing pridefully on your selflessness, if you remember that one. I am giving up what I want, and feeling so good about how good I am. All of these different tactics, and simple things like the politicization of Christianity. Which party or politician would Jesus support? And Christian cliques. All of these are just tactics that have a central theme running through them, a thread that ties them all together. And that is trying to distract the patient from the person of Christ. All of these things are meant to get him thinking about something other than who Christ is and what Christ has done for us and our relationship to God through him. And every little bit that Wormwood could have done to distract his patient, this is exactly what Screwtape was encouraging in so many different ways. And so that really is, in our Christian walk, it's one of those things that we have to keep front and center, and that is not to get distracted by things. Some of the things that Screwtape was telling Wormwood to distract the patient with were good things. They were things that God created for us to enjoy. But if we can get distracted from Christ by even good things, we've taken our focus off of where our focus should be. And that really was Screwtape's common theme, and Wormwood utterly failed.
And thinking of those distractions, because Lewis says in here, pains he may still have to encounter, but they embrace those pains. They would not barter them for any earthly pleasure. And what a reflection on the cross, and how, for humanity to reflect upon the awesomeness that Christ embraced the cross, our cross. He embraced it. And to cling to that when I have a hard time clinging to my cross, to pick up my cross and to follow him, and whatever my daily suffering might be, or challenge and so forth, to be able to not be distracted, and to embrace the duties that I need to do for my day, the people that are responsible, I'm responsible for that day. And what I've learned and relearned from this is to really reflect and think about what I think might be the problem. Is it really? What's the distraction that is trying to how is Screwtape trying to distract me
Hmm.
from what I need to do, from what needs to happen at this time? And as Jesus, as was, the devil tried to distract him from his mission and who he is as the Son of God. And when I can't understand, that's when the reflection becomes, you know, Jesus, you embraced the cross. You embraced our crosses, and help me to be able to trust in that and to persevere. Because if Screwtape if there's any value to what he shared, is that at a moment when this life is over, everything is the scabs will come off. We'll be able to see all the perseverance in the endure in Christ, to be able to have faith in what we hope for, as St. Paul talks about.
Well, and as he says, now we see dimly, and and at that future point, like you said, the scabs come off. We will see things clearly. We will see him as he is, and our relationship with him will be so much clearer. Um, and now I also got a little bit of amusement in the way Lewis had Screwtape writing things. This, uh, you know, when Wormwood could see the patient bowing at his feet, and understanding the depth of his sin and what Christ had done for him, that this is something that the demons can't do because they don't have that relationship. Will they bow the knee? Absolutely. But it won't be as the loved subjects and saved ones, of the Savior. And so, uh, we have that focus as an opportunity. And like you said, the suffering that Christ willingly took, if we can keep our focus on him, on what he has done, and you know his example, the prayer in the garden, is to me so eye-opening in some ways, because he starts out with, Father, I don't want to do this. If there's any way we can do this a different way, but not my will, yours. And he willingly takes on the incredible pain and suffering of the next 24 hours, even though it's not something he wants to do. And so that's such a good lesson for us, if we can keep our focus on him and his example. It doesn't mean we have to enjoy the pains of this life, but we learn from them, and we grow closer to God through them.
And I just, even thinking of as he wraps up and wrapping up, I want to say to you and to those who watch this has been very enjoyable. It's really it's been just reflective for
Mhm.
myself. I read this probably 25, 28 years ago,
Right.
and and even how it happened, because you were finishing up um, your series on Mere Christianity, and I was thinking to myself, I think it'd be interesting to do a series on Screwtape letters. And I remember I mentioned it, I think, in an email. I just wanted to be respectful that I'd be interested in doing something, and you had thought of it. You said, "Hey, why don't we do it? Just how God works."
Mhm.
So it's really been enjoyable. And the last thing is, I hope, I assume for all those who have watched and commented, that if anyone themselves can come to a closer relationship with Christ, and even to recognize how the little screw tapes and wormwoods try to distract us, to me that's very powerful, to know there's other people out there, there's other Christians or those who might be coming stronger in their belief, that this has helped them because it's helped me.
Yes, I certainly has me too, and I'm in a similar situation. I read the book in my 20s and hadn't revisited it probably since then. And so, yes, getting a reminder of all the ways that that the screw tapes out there try to distract us and make us ineffectual in our walk of faith. It's been really helpful, and it's been incredibly enjoyable working together with you on this. And for any of you who haven't started, pick up our series in that we're doing here across the table with Sir Richard, and uh, we're going to be covering lots and lots of different topics, not just one book. Um, we're targeting every other week for those ones, but join us on Across the Table, and while you do, find something you like. Enjoy your afternoon.